Welcome, guys, to another installment of Jantmor interviews. I'm your host, Jantmor, aka Joshua Morales, and I'm here with the amazing Patrick Perez. How do you say the
Vidauri.
Vidauri and
Yeah.
Christina Nava. Welcome. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for having us, Josh.
We're awesome. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for helping my brand and my what I'm trying to accomplish here. It really means a lot to me. So thank you so much for coming on. So how would you guys describe how would you guys describe the environment you were birthed into?
That we were birthed into,
Like where we were born.
Yeah, your childhood, like stuff like that. Like, how would you describe your childhood?
I'll start. I describe my childhood as kind of like idyllic in a way. Like my dad got a good job for a like high school educated. He got his community college degree and still got a great job with the aircraft, the booming kind of aircraft industry here back in the 70s, 80s. And, he was able to support our family in a middle class upbringing on one guy working, like the economy was different for them. You know what I mean? So we had a nice house and it was a multicultural neighborhood. So I had Mexican neighbors over here, Korean neighbors over there, white neighbors over there. And it was we grew up like all my best friends were like different races. And I thought the whole world was like that until, I grew up and I was like, oh, everyone hates each other. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my upbringing, very suburban, very, very kind of like a Steven Spielberg movie,
And okay. I grew up in the opposite of what he grew up in. My parents were immigrants, and so I was born here, but they immigrated here, and so we grew up in like Bell Gardens and Huntington Park areas. Back then, like they both worked in, they worked in factories, and I think back then they made a combined amount of like $10, $11 between the both of them. Like it was something crazy like that. And still they managed to prioritize education. So we were in a private school. And so I didn't really realize we were poor because we had everything we wanted. We had a great education. We felt safe at school, but then, you go back home and it's like, I was indoors a lot. Like Patrick could go like in ET and be off on his bike.
We'd be on our BMX bikes in a dirt lot, until the mandate was you come home when the streetlights come on. So my parents didn't know where I was for like the whole day. There was no cell phone. You're just out,
Yeah, no. Right. In our area, you would have been dead in a dirt lot. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it just was different, but education was a priority, and so that was ingrained, and that I took into my adulthood, and then so now it's really nice to be able to have my children grow up in more of an environment that Patrick has lived in. That's how we grew up, and I just really, from a television or film perspective, I assimilated a lot through television shows, and so I wanted to like be like Friends, the guys in the Friends cast, and like be living alone, and that really clashed with the ideals of my parents, so it was fun.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You guys come from two completely different worlds. That's insane.
Right?
Like, you're like, goodness. I guess I'm the best of both worlds. Like I'm in the middle with both of you guys. Like, I grew up in Queens. It was different. I went outside, but I was indoors too a lot of the times too, just because of the environment and how my mom was. She was not as protective up in New York. She is a lot down here, which I don't understand how that changed. I live in Georgia now, so it's safe as you could get. So I don't know how that happened, but I guess it's how the world is going. But Yeah, I'm more in the middle between you guys. So how did Christina, how did you get into the entertainment industry with everything just being grown up in that environment? How did you see a way out in that sense?
So I really wanted to be a writer when ever since I was little, but the thing was that if I did that, it was like it was ingrained that I was either going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and the typical safe route. And so I really kind of abandoned those dreams, but I snuck them in there in high school. I snuck them in there where I decided to take one theater class the last semester of my senior year in high school, and I was hooked. I found out that I was a pretty good actress, and then I started taking theater classes in college, and also I would write. So I just kind of had to hide my passion while I was not pretending, but saying I was going to go to law school. And, so at UCLA, I was more like pre-law. And then finally I left home and started being like the Friends characters, and I got in my own apartment. My father didn't talk to me for 3 years when I did that. Yeah, it was intense. So there I started meeting people who were making a living being artists, and it was inspiring, and I really wanted to do it. And it took me a long time to jump in with both feet. And so, but it was really about me making that decision and not having that fear of letting him down. And it's like, by the time that I met Patrick, he was at UCLA. I had transitioned from theater wholeheartedly into television, and I started to make, just allies. And then he and I produced my first short film. It was his thesis film. And when we finally connected, that was a match. There was a really good match. And so we started producing together. I wrote more. I was being asked from different avenues to write, not just with us. So here we are.
That's awesome. Okay. Patrick, what got you into the entertainment industry?
Well, again, a completely different story. When I was a kid, I went to school with Fergie, who's back then she was known as Stacey Ferguson from the Black Eyed Peas, and we had a lot of people.
You're so good, Josh.
So I was the MC of the talent show for grade school, and Fergie was one of the contestants. She won the talent show, right? And I was in a bunch of school plays, and then her agent told my mom, that kid should be in television. He's really good, So Fergie's, agent back, she was in something called Kids Incorporated and all this stuff. So anyway, I started going to auditions and acting classes and stuff like that. And me and my brothers always ran around the house making movies, and I always thought that this was I love the entertainment industry. I love the art of acting. I love the power of movies, and and the way it's like a collective dream that we have together and stuff. And it's just so I've always wanted to do this pretty much since it's about the fourth or fifth grade. I wanted to be in this industry. So I went to college. I was in a lot of plays there as well, but I knew I wasn't going to be an actor forever. I wanted to get into the writing, the directing, the producing of it. And so when I graduated college, I actually went to Columbia University over there in New York.
Cool.
And then when I got out, I went and kind of volunteered at the public access station. And I got my own TV show on public access called Street Docs, where I'd run around LA, where we're from, making little documentaries about East LA or pieces of city history that people didn't know, And so I learned to edit there at that public access station. I learned to produce, I learned to direct, and that was my first taste of that. I started making short films, and much like Christina, I found I was in New York, and they used to have something called the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, right? I don't know if they still have it, but it was a place where Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Latinos from New York would come together and share their poetry, their art, their culture. And I was so inspired by that. I was like, how come us, the Latino, Chicanos, Mexican Americans from the West Coast, where's our Neo Rican Poets Cafe, So when I left New York, I came to LA looking for where are these artistic expressions coming out of the East Side and the Latino culture, you know, and I found it. I found like poets and writers and activists and musicians, and kind of like we were in the same world. Like we have so many friends in common, even before we met. Like when we met, we knew everybody, the same people, you know. So we kind of got into this East LA artistic scene, and that's where like I started really making my first films, and then I got a UCLA master's program for film, and then ever since then I've been directing, producing, and editing.
Nice. Okay. How did you two meet? Like, where did you guys meet?
The first time we met, we were both working.
The short version.
The short version. Well, we were working in an after-school program the first time we met, and I was teaching theater to middle school kids, and he was teaching film to middle school kids, and but at that point, he was seeing someone, I was getting out of a relationship, so I didn't, nothing clicked. 4 years later, he was on a show
I used to be on a radio show called The Pocho Hour of Power on
KPFK.
On 90.7 KPFK. It's still on the air. I'm not on it anymore. But our producer brought us the lineup for the day, and I'm looking at the different guests we have, and one of them was Christina Nava. And I'm like, oh, I wonder how she's doing. It'd be nice to see her after like 4 years we hadn't seen each other.
I was touring a one-woman show at that time. And so I was there.
She had written a really funny one-woman show called Rocks in My Salsa that she was performing and promoting. So she was coming to promote it on our show, and she was petrified because our producer told her that we were a bunch of misogynists. And
what?
I think, what are you telling people? We're not misogynists. It's like we were a group of 4 guys, and we're a comedy show. So sometimes we get a little bit,
off track.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That doesn't make us misogynists.
I know. But what does that say about me that I actually was like, okay, sign me up?
So she comes on the show, and she's like, "You're on the show?" And I was like, "Christina Nava, how are you?" And
I calmed down, because then I'm like, okay, this guy has worked with kids. Like, we've worked together with kids. Like,
she could
so
trust
the rest of the show, I was like, I had fun, and there was a lot of chemistry instantly. And so
I was like, "Are you still seeing that guy?" She's like, "No." "Are you still seeing that?" I was like, "No." And we both kind of looked at each other, going like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah. So we started dating like immediately thereafter, and then he was at UCLA, I had written a short film called Syndrome, about Stockholm Syndrome, and he liked it, so he wanted to use it for his thesis film, and so we wrote a grant together. We got like $10,000 for his film.
Wow!
We built on the soundstage at UCLA. It was my first set. And like everyone volunteered. I got like the amount of bang for the buck was incredible. Like we got beautiful movie. It's called Syndrome, and you could see it on Vimeo. Syndrome. Anyway, it's lovely. We love that little film. And
but that was really a testament to like our collaboration, and that we didn't kill each other. And so if we could get through that, like I thought, well, this is a good match. This is really what I had been looking for.
Yeah. I asked her to marry me like a few months after that.
8 months later. But who's counting?
Wow. Yes, it's 8 months.
So how long have you guys been in this industry for? When did it all start?
I mean, I'm like not a young guy anymore. Like I started, for me, when I graduated college, when I was 21, 22 years old, I decided to make a go of this, and I made my first real like good short film when I was like 25 years old. And that was 20 years ago. So
wow.
Yeah. So I've been in this a long time, and I've made a career of it. Like we're able to keep a roof over our head and do everything. So I've produced for Netflix. I've edited for all of the major networks, and directing feature films. So it's not a short journey. It's like we're committed for the long haul.
Excuse me. Oh, thank you.
You don't have to cover. We're
doesn't like sprays.
But okay, so what would you say to people who want to get in this industry?
I mean, I always say start young and don't quit. The more you do, the better you get. So start practicing. If you want to write a lot. If you want to act a lot. Get in there, get in the mix and start volunteering. Everybody starts out non-paid, everybody, and then you start out low paid, and then you graduate to high pay. And it's not that long. It's really just about, 2 or 3 years, you could be in a really good spot, if you really apply yourself.
Make allies, like collaborate with people, like Patrick is saying, just to add to that. Like really search for it and make yourself available. Because you learn a lot just from being on set. You learn, you just learn so much. And it's not an overnight success, you know what I mean? It's not an overnight thing. We have been chiseling away little by little for a while. So anyone who wants to do it, like find people who are doing it and just say, hey, can I help out?
Yep. And also I think it's good to be flexible. Like if you have a vision and you don't like your first opportunity, if you want to direct, for instance, your first opportunity is not going to be to direct or produce or write, maybe produce. You can get into producing early, but you gotta, like for me, I gripped, I've done everything. I've gaffed, I've edited, I've done everything but sound department, basically. Sometimes you have to just take any opportunity that comes just so you're in the game,
Right.
So the other thing I always do is I always say yes. Like if people ask, you want to do this? You say yes. And they say, can you do this? Can you, like they asked me, can you edit on Avid? I was like, yes, of course I can edit on Avid. And I didn't know how to edit on Avid, But I taught myself in a weekend and I got the job, Like it's like you have to say yes, that, have some self-confidence and believe you're going to be able to figure it out on the way,
All right.
That doesn't always work for everyone.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree. If you want to get started in it, just go for it. Like doing this, like interviewing people was kind of just like a random out of nowhere question to a band member of a band. I just asked, could I like interview one of their bandmates, and they're like, absolutely. And then I just started from there. So just get started. Get started young too. I always hear that, like always get started young. Like whenever anything, you got to get started young because you'll have more experience and be better equipped for all of that. So
yeah.
And I would add to that just from my experience, that I didn't start when I was young because I was afraid of disappointing my parents. But I really would like to reach out to anyone listening and encourage them, like, to listen to whatever that gift, that God-given gift that we all have it, and really listen to it and hone it. Because our parents are afraid that we're not going to make the money to be able to support ourselves and get out of their house. But if you can figure out, an actress whose name I'm blanking on said that if you can figure out what that passion is, what that gift is, and then figure out a way to make money at it, it's never going to be work, And it happens, like if you just keep at it. But I know it's hard when we're young. We have some of us, especially if we have immigrant parents, we have that added weight on our shoulders. But I encourage anybody to just, take that chance and listen to your heart.
Right. Absolutely. Most definitely. Don't do something that you just like, oh, it's a job. Like always do something that you enjoy doing and that you love doing, and because if you're doing something that's just for pay, you're not gonna put your all into it or like really care, like, or not want to advance to the next level. So you most definitely want to do something that comes from your heart. So I most definitely agree with that. You guys are award-winning film and television creators. So what can you tell us about the importance of choosing universal themes and breaking perspective and creating content?
I mean, for us, it's very important because that's pretty much our mission statement. Like we are 100% focused on creating, content. A lot of times you see Latino content, it means immigrant content or narcos or gangbanger films and stuff, and that's all stuff we will never make, because we want to touch on universal themes where the characters happen to be Latino or people of color. That are, but it's a story that could be for anybody. Everyone should be able to resonate with it and understand it. So that's pretty much what we're all about. In the competition in the marketplace, you're competing with everything. You can't just say, I'm making the Latino version of Batman. Like that's no good. You have to create stuff, really good work that resonates, that's original. You don't want to be biting people and trying to, rip things off. You have to come up with a unique voice. And I think we achieved that in other words. It has a very specific voice. It has a very kind of resonant quality that all people identify with, but it has a point of view and a perspective that kind of leaves you kind of a little more open-minded when you're done,
Absolutely. What would you say to creators who have issues doing such things as that, or need like help?
So I guess I got to hear Kenya Barris, who is the creator of Blackish. I got to hear him speak, and he said that the universality comes from specificity, and so if we're specifically for Latinos, like for myself, whenever I'm specific on my story to my story, like for example, Rocks in My Salsa, the one that Patrick and I met, the one woman show, is kind of like Friends in that it was about a 30-something living in Los Angeles, but she's Latina. And so it was like it was like Friends, but with a lot of Catholic guilt. Right? Like I was single, but I had all this guilt. And when I did the show, I would have and audience members who were Anglo come up to me and say that they really connected with the show, that they really connected, that even though I was Latina and I was dealing with, for example, whatever it was, that they really connected with like that desire to please your parents or whatever, And so I'm specific. If I'm specific in those stories, I still will find the universal themes, which can be love or filial piety or whatever it is that we're experiencing.
Right. Okay. So that would be some good advice, because I feel like a lot of people struggle or with that sort of topic, or trying to bring in world issues, or they just try to want to be. They don't like originality. Like they want to make the next, like you said, a Latino Batman or something like that. Like that's boring. Like we've seen the Batmans. Like it doesn't matter if you make them, Asian or Latino. It's the same like story, copy paste. It's not good. You're not gonna stand out, and people are gonna hate it and trash it, and it's not gonna have a long-lasting effect on the person watching the film. So it's very important to be specific and do stuff like that. So most definitely. What would you say to people in terms of representation? I know there's like a large not debate, but I feel like people kind of have trouble grasping it, because you have people on the internet talk about whenever they cast a person, it's SJW, or it's a propaganda tool, or this, that, and the third. So what would you say to people like that?
I mean, fine. Let it be a propaganda tool. Like we need to get more people of color, like especially Latinos, because I think, when America thinks that they got to have, inclusivity, they think black and white. Americans and Latino Americans are kind of missed out of the equation. and it's not a priority, or it hasn't been. So I think it's changing slowly. That we're going to have more, that we are getting more parts for people of color written in, and I don't think it's a gimmick or a gag. Like it's like we were watching Away, the new Netflix show with what's her name, the
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank. They're going to Mars. She has a daughter, and the daughter's dating a Mexican American boyfriend, and it's not an issue at all. He just happens to be a Mexican American kid.
It's in his name.
It's his name, yeah, but he's just a normal kid, and that's the kind of stuff I love to see, that kind of like everyday inclusivity, where it's not some sort of a stereotype role that you're including,
Absolutely. It's very important to make it not stereotypical and boring or just like preachy. I was talking to, I think I heard an interview where someone was like, to make it authentic, we need people of color, like Latino people, to like write the stories so it doesn't come off as like hammy or trash or like people just hating on it. So.
Sure, that's really important. The writers' rooms start off white, and people are trying to like include color, and they don't know the experience. They're not writing it authentically. When they made Coco, the first time they tried it, it failed because they were trying to copyright Dia de los Muertos. Disney tried to copyright Dia de los Muertos.
Wow.
Day of the Dead. And so that didn't work, and they kind of had a public relations disaster, so they stopped. The second time they tried to do it, they invited my co-host on the radio show, Lalo Alcaraz, who's a nationally syndicated cartoonist. He does a cartoon called La Cucaracha. Anyway, they invited him and a bunch of other Latino people from the culture to be cultural consultants. They weren't technically writers, but they looked at the writing and said, this is authentic or this isn't. Like, that's not the way we do it, Whereas, you see something like Sin City. What was the Sin City? City of Angels. No. It was
Penny Dreadful.
Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. Okay, they had Latino Mexican American culture featured in that series. But Chicano culture specifically, but they got a lot of stuff wrong. Like the way people talk, the way people pray.
The Malverde.
Yeah,
saint.
like the symbolism of like what it, they got it wrong. Like they represented something that wasn't authentic. And that was really frustrating for me, because it's like our one chance to be highlighted and featured as like Chicano culture on a major production, and they're kind of spreading false information. People might see that and say like, "Oh, I understand a little bit about Chicano culture." No, you don't. That was all made.
You don't, right?
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. They mixed up voodoo with Santeria with like they just kind of. They said, "Oh, the people of color do it like this. They're very superstitious." They kind of slapped together some sort of a iconography, that wasn't authentic. They could have done it better, but they didn't have. I don't think they had the right people in the writers' room.
It did not seem that way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, I could imagine when you see yourself on screen, but it's not done in a respectful and tasteful manner, and people are gonna see this motion picture film because it might be the first time they've ever heard of that culture or have seen that race of people, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is what they are," and then you being from that culture, knowing that life and that experience, you're gonna be like, "That's not at all what it's like. It's very different. You know nothing from it. Like, you know nothing about me." So I completely understand when you say it's disrespectful or distasteful, or gosh, I think I heard something about Black Panther, what they were trying to do with that film. I can't remember. I think they wanted to give Chadwick Boseman a British accent or something like that. But Chadwick was like, "No, I want to do it in my like African accent." I think that was the story. Marvel was trying to do something that Chadwick was like completely against because it completely misrepresented the African culture. So props to him and rest in peace to him for doing that, because that's very important if you're going to do a film like that. So, but about your film, in other words, so this is your most recent film. I'm very excited to talk about that. You got the poster in your background over there. So yeah, there it is. So what inspired you to integrate technology into your romantic comedy?
The original story. In other words, was based on a true story, and our executive producer Ruben Inglas presented us with this story, and it was actually about his friend, and but this was back like 20 years ago or something, where technology was not as, it was even more, I think maybe like 30 years ago, where technology was not as prevalent or accessible to us. And so back then it was that he was trying to court, he was an American in France trying to court a girl who didn't know English. And they were using actual dictionaries.
He did, the real guy was a tech guy who sold his tech company and was traveling the world, you know. And so when we were creating this character, we kind of stuck in the realm of tech, but we said, like, what if it would be more ironic if this is a love story, if this guy developed a dating app and yet he's horrible with women, you know? So that makes more of that nice juxtaposition of irony, you know? So we kind of like brought it back to that, you know, he developed his dating app because he's so bad with women, you know? He wanted something that matched you with somebody without you actually having to try, you know? But,
yeah. And so then just with regards to the language, we tried to incorporate a lot more, because in reality, people like mine is right. Everyone uses this to like translate or whatever. So it was very natural, you know, very modern to do that.
It was so cool that nowadays you could literally like, you know, text in on Google Translate and like have a conversation like that, you know? Like,
yeah.
And we had scenes like that, you know? And then there's also, we found out about this technology. It's there's an earbud you can put in your ear and it'll translate for you.
Heard about that, yeah.
In real time, and that's really a technology that exists right now. So we had fun incorporating like the most cutting edge technology into love story, you know.
What inspired y'all to make, in other words, like choosing locations or like shooting?
Again, it was like the mandate of the executive producer. He's like, I want you to tell this story in this setting. And that was the parameters. He was like, my friend's story, and I want it to be in this place like he loved going. He's like, you got to check it out. There's this wine region south of the border, just south of San Diego. And it's beautiful. He took us down there and we were like, wow, this is awesome. And if you watch the film, look at the reaction of the main characters. That was our reaction the first time we went there. We literally walked in going like, what?
Yeah.
This is crazy. It's so awesome here. There's live music and wine and food and everyone's well dressed and it's beautiful architecture. And you're like deep into Mexico. You're like, well, I didn't know this existed, you know? And so it really allowed us to show a different side of Mexico that people don't ever see on film. People see burning cars and, you know, narco wasteland. You know?
Yeah.
You don't see the beauty and the relaxed, you know, it's very, like 90% of Mexico is beautiful and safe and charming and accepting and loving, and, you know, so that's the side we showed.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys got to do that, because we don't, like you said, we don't really hear or see that much positive about Mexico, which is a sad thing. We see like gang violence or people getting kidnapped or drug cartels. We just see like a lot of stereotypes, I want to say, that like contribute to like this negative view of Mexico and could stop people from wanting to go there. Like showing Africa as showing Africa as a poor place, which is why Black Panther to me meant so much, because it showed us like it's not just all poor and garbage and like trash, you know. It's actually a beautiful place to go to and relax and visit. So representation in people and also representation of places is also very important to break that narrative. So,
absolutely.
Totally.
Props to y'all for doing that. What was the process like doing this? What was the most difficult part about it?
The budget. I would say that it was, it was our first endeavor with our business partner, and so we were getting to know each other. So this is indie filmmaking all the way through, and so we it was hard. It was hard to make it with the budget we had. It was a lot of fun, but for me, it's always nice to have a little more cushion, and we're getting that a little more these days. But the budget was hard to work with.
It was somewhat miraculous what we were able to pull off. Like it was really like we shot this film in 17 days. many times we had to take one take of a shot. Like if I needed a certain shot, but I didn't have time, I'd have to do one take, move on, 2 takes of this, move on. It was just the pace was relentless, and it was hot as hell. People fainted and stuff. It was like
Wow.
one person did, but we went through water like so fast.
Because we shot in the summer.
Ooh.
And, in vineyards, but really kind of very desert areas. And
yeah, it was hard, man. I mean, it was physically exhausting, and our pace was frenetic. And but our DP is fun. Natang, he is hardworking, artistic, friendly. Like, never say die. Like we're always like, we would be tired and exhausted, and we'd still go for the difficult shot. We'd still try our best at the highest level. So if you look at this movie, you can't even probably tell what the budget is. And I don't think we're going to tell what the budget is either. But it was less than you would think, and it was less than we wanted, and we still made it work.
Awesome. I'm glad you took full advantage of that. So where can we find In Other Words?
In Other Words, it's on all digital platforms, iTunes, Amazon. You can find it on Roku, and then on cable. You can look for it on demand.
On demand on cable. So any where you rent movies, like on your cable box or Redbox, Fandango. It's all kinds of places.
And just a heads up with Amazon.
The only one who screwed up on who is not providing subtitles right now is Amazon, and I hope to rectify that today or tomorrow. But everyone else did it right and put the subtitles up. This has about like 20% Spanish, maybe less. But jokes in there that you need to read the subtitles to understand the joke.
It's not a lot of Spanish, but those moments that for filmmakers were like cringing, like, no,
we're like, it's not the way we intended it. But people are still writing us and saying they loved it, and even without the subtitles, it's very fun to watch and intelligible. But right now Amazon doesn't have them up. They should have them up within a week.
Nice, awesome. So I have 2 more questions for you guys. Hold on, let me look at my notes. What can you tell us about your upcoming films, and are there any future projects down the line?
Sure. Our upcoming film is, we just got approved for another comedy. This one's called Debate, and it's about it's a comedy about divorce. I think it's a romantic comedy about divorce. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's more adult. Like, if you watch In Other Words, this is very family friendly. You can watch it with your grandparents or your young kids, your preteens. But it has nothing risque, ribald, or bad words or anything. Debate is not going to be like that at all. It's going to be a fun adult comedy, with a lot of the way people actually talk. There's some F-bombs in there and some adult situations. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're shooting it in a month, and we're going to shoot under COVID, so it's going to be our first film with the masks and the social distancing, and so we're going to have to deal with all that stuff. We're
currently casting for it, and I actually want to just put it out there that we are looking for the Latina lead. Like we want an up and coming actress, someone who's aspiring, but who has comedic chops and who is in the age range of like 35 to 45.
Yeah.
She's
so Latina.
If anyone's out there and wants to hit us up, go to our IMDb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can't put people up. We don't have money to put people up, but if you can make it to LA and want to be in a movie, and you can send us your headshot, where can they send it?
Just go ahead and send it to lux3pictures@gmail.com. That's LUX, the number 3pictures@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we're seriously in earnest looking for this up and coming comedic Latina actress to carry this film. We're currently casting.
Awesome. I guess I have two more questions. This one, what franchise would you guys like a shot at? Like something you would like to write in?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What franchise would you write in, or would you like a shot at? What franchise?
What do you mean, like franchise?
That means
like Marvel or DC. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You want to answer it?
I mean, for me, I'm more of a history nerd. So like the franchise I want to do is called the story of the conquest of Mexico. It's like the Cortez Chronicles or something. Like I want to see that like recreated epic scale, and I would love to be a part of that. Like that, my dream is to like see the story of how the Aztecs and the Spaniards fought it out in like a 4 or 5 part series. Like awesome mini series. So that's kind of my dream. Yeah.
I really like I love the comedy genre and the rom-com. And I grew up watching John Hughes. You grew up watching John Cusack, and so I have my dream project. It's a teen rom-com, and it's in the vein of like John Hughes. That I'm really hoping that we get funding for it, and I would love to make that one because that whole era of like Say Anything and all of these 80s Pretty in Pink and all that. I love that. So
yeah,
that's where my heart lies.
And I wouldn't mind directing an episode of The Mandalorian. So
nice. Season 2 coming soon. So that'd be cool. Hope you all get what you're looking for. I'm very much looking forward to where the future of your guys' career and where God takes you guys and where you guys are going to land next. So this is my last question for you, and I always end off my interviews with this question because I feel like it's very important for people to take this message with them if they take anything away from this interview. So my question to you guys is, final question, what would be your current message to the world during these current times that we live in? We have Black Lives Matter protests going around. We have the pandemic going on. We have a presidential election coming up in just a few weeks. People are scared, they're nervous. So what would you say to people right now?
We sighed at the exact same time.
Yeah. Like what to say. So it's really important to vote. But I'm just going to say it. Like we cannot vote for another 4 years of disaster and this nightmare. As a Latino, as a woman, the last 4 years have been really difficult to hear the rhetoric that this man has put out there from the beginning against Mexicans, that we are rapists and murderers and drug dealers. And our mission is to really, our mission with our films is to completely go against that and change the narrative about Latinos. So I have to put it out there. We cannot do this. Do not vote for him. Do not reelect him. My children beg you not to do it. I beg you not to do it. We need change.
And we need young people to turn out. Like if all young people voted, there's no chance he could win. The demographics now are huge. Most of the people in this country are young. They way eclipse even the baby boomers. The biggest generation ever are the young people right now. So the future is yours, and we're relying on you. And there may be a lot of weight and a lot of there's a lot of psychic pain, I think, going on right now because people are kind of bleak and hopeless, and there's a real a sense that things are screwed up beyond repair. And I would just say that we need to keep hope alive, and we need to keep understand one thing about. I'm a student of history, and the long sweep of history, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, that the long sweep of history arcs towards justice. So over time, the pendulum swings both ways. It goes far right, far left, far right, far left. Right now, we're going pretty far to the right, and this has happened before in human history, in just the last century. And we're going to swing the other way, and when we do, we have to take advantage of it to make the change that we need to keep this planet livable, sustainable, and equal for all. So I believe there's hope. I believe as long as young people keep hope and you have older allies who are willing to back people up, that we will change this future over time, and we will see what we have to do and we will do it. So I'm just hoping there's people of courage and conviction who keep on fighting the good fight, and we'll get there.
All right, absolutely. All right, guys, that's it. That's all the questions I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Yeah. I always, like I said, I always end off my interviews with that question. I've done it since beginning of May. I ended off that question with. I always ended off my interviews with that question because, like I said, it's very important to know where people are at and just to let people know that there's hope, there's a brighter future, even though with everything going on. Like, you guys are in California, right? I mean, you have wildfires going on over there, and you got the pandemic. Like, it's just so much, and I feel like people need to hear a positive message and a positive word to just like let them go out there and just take on the world, because you can do anything, and it's not going to be like this forever. And you're right, change is going to come, and a lot of things are going to change very soon. So
so sooner the better.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely. It was an honor to speak with you guys. I'm very proud of both of you. I'm so excited to see where the future takes you. I can't wait to see you guys in a big motion major picture directing the next Transformers or something, or I can't wait to see where you guys land. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. So
thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot. And check out Another Work, everyone.
Absolutely. So where can people find you guys, like your social media?
You can go to In Other Words Movie, or for my personal one, I am Christina, no H, Christina.
I'm Pat Perez World on Instagram, Pat Perez World. And I'm on Facebook, just look me up. And I'm on Twitter at Pocho Patrick.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have an amazing rest of your guys' day. Hope to have you on another day, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Josh.
Absolutely. Bye. Have a great one.